Hello YouTube, Totalhenry here, and I am back with a drawing tutorial video. One of my viewers commented under the Mega Heracross video asking if I could do a step-by-step tutorial of Mega Heracross, so I'm going to attempt that right now. As you can see, this is the image I'm going to be working from. This is from Bulbapedia. So if you just search Heracross or Mega Heracross on Google, it'll be like the first link and you can easily find this image. So this is what I'm going to be referring to as I'm drawing. And for this video, I'm just going to be showing you the pencils and the inks. I'm not going to color it. Just because I think the hardest part about this is getting the details and the everything in place and in proportion to each other. So that's what I'm going to focus on, and I think in the end I will just shade it with a pencil and it'll be a sort of a black and white sort of grayscale drawing. And okay, I haven't made one of these in a while, so I'm gonna try my best. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Okay, so this is going to be how I work. The very first thing that I do whenever I'm drawing something is I start off with a rough sketch. So Mega Heracross, if you have your image, has this gigantic sort of horn, has a long horn up here. This is the sort of the top of its horn right here. And then it has a sort of a round body down here. So I'm just getting in loose figures for where I want everything to be, keeping it nice and light. Here I'm starting to get the joints in its legs. Now some people do more detailed rough sketches, and sort of based on personal preferences. If you look at some of my Pokemon videos, I don't really go that detailed just because I want to start the actual process. So here I'm going to start drawing his arms. Mega Heracross, especially in this pose, is kind of tough because his hands are crossing in front. So back here, this is where it, I guess, connects into the main body. His elbow, if he has one, would be over here. And this is the main part of his arm. And then he has little claws right here for his hands. And you can see I'm starting to add some of the details in here just because I'm able to look at the image and I'm seeing that there's a line here, another line there. Okay, so Mega Heracross, yeah, as I said before, he does have this horn, and it sort of slopes down like this, and then he has another one that's further down right here in the middle of his face, and then he has an eye here and some little orange sort of symbol. It's like a rounded triangle right here in the middle. So the hardest part about Mega Heracross is this center part right here, because he has this horn that comes straight at you, and he has all these details that are right in this huge area. So then on the other side of his body, we have his other arm, but because of the angle, we see more. We actually see this part here, while we don't see it over here because it's being obscured. And remember, the second hand in this pose is behind the horn, so just remember that as you're sketching it out. It's okay if it passes in front during the sketching part, because these aren't the final lines. So there's his other hand. Now I'm moving the paper a little bit because there are some other details here. He has this weird sort of I don't know what you would call it, like a flap, where like it almost looks like shelves. They sort of indented right here. And if you look at the image, I don't want to pull it back up, but if you look at the these are sort of indented right here. If you can see, it's kind of hard to describe. Like his body goes inward in this area. So right here we have the rough sketch of Mega Heracross. I think you guys can see that. Okay, so now, next up, I start working on the details. Again, some people might go darker than this, but I'm just gonna say like this. So the very first thing I'm going to work on is this hand right here, just because it passes in front of the face, and it's the first thing. And then once I start getting this in place, then I'll know where I want to put the horn and all the other details. So I'm going to start off, I'm going to darken in this line right here where I want his hand to be. Okay. So yeah, this is still kind of loose. I am planning on inking this. I'm not a good inker, so I probably won't talk much about that while I'm doing it. But so I am gonna keep this pretty loose because this isn't the final line. So of course, depending on what you're doing, you can keep it loose if you know you're gonna go over it with something else. So then right here, I'm starting to add some details. He has this little circular region of his hand up here where his claws come out. So he has 3 claws, but in this particular pose, one of them is behind the first 2. So here we have one, and then we have another one right here. And these are rounded triangles. As you can see, I'm rounding the bottom edge right here, so it sort of looks like it comes out of the hand. And then I'm curving these right here to a point. Now I'm going to erase some of the lines that are inside the claw just to remind me that these claws pass in front of that. And then he has a third claw. So you can see I'm putting a small line back there. And then this third claw passes in front of the, sort of behind there, and sticks out to the side like that. That might be a little bit too big. Okay, let's make this a little bit smaller. Okay. So yeah, there we have one claw. And I add the details pretty early on. And this isn't just a line, like it's a little band, so we have to add another line underneath that. And going along with the details, there is a line that comes along like this, curving along right here, capturing the form of this object that helps divide this in 2. So there we have one hand done. Now next, underneath this arm right here, we have sort of I guess it's almost like a part of a circle. It's kind of a rounded shape right underneath here. And that connects to this line, which is sort of the arm, the same thing over there, which will connect into the part of his, the circle that's part of his body that we sketched earlier. So I'm just darkening in all these lines. And my main process for drawing, especially if I'm copying something from a photo, it's basically just placing the lines. I mean, like you really have to see. Like I don't mean like 20/20 vision, but you just have to look at the picture and pick up all the small details and take the time to place them down. Trying to think of better advice. So right now I'm adding another little band around this circle right here that connects to his body. Okay, so now the next thing I think I'm going to do is I'm going to work on his horn, because that will help me get a sense of his body, and then I can keep going along. I don't like to move over to this other area because sometimes your rough sketch will change slightly over the course of the drawing, and I just like to continue with it. And I mean, I will go back and change things as I go. Like if I see this is too big, I can come back and switch it, but this is what I personally like to do. So his horn passes behind his hand. I'm going to tilt the paper here so I can get a nice curved line. That's something that's very helpful, to turn the paper around so you can flick your wrist. So then on the other side, we can turn the paper again to get a nice long curve. And it gently curves down to right here because it will continue on and connects with his body. So see, I missed the line right there, so I am sort of adjusting my line. I probably curved the paper the wrong way there. So now, because it's getting kind of messy, I'm going to erase some of these other lines just so I have the one line right there. Now again, I personally like to put the details in sooner rather than later, and he does have two spikes coming out of his horn like this. So just going to add these in. These are again like rounded triangle shapes. You want to make it really rounded on the bottom. So then I just erase the leftover lines that were in the spikes. Okay, so there we got the long horn. Okay, so now becomes the tricky part. If you have your image, you can look right here. As I said, there's a lot of detail, and it's going to take some time because he has another horn coming up here, which I'm going to start to draw now. Now this placement's kind of tricky because it's the horn right here comes into the middle part of his face, like it's sticking out of his face. So you can't bring the line all the way here, and the lines, unlike lines for the horn on top of his head that just sort of go behind his hand and go behind everything else, here you actually see this line stop. So it starts in the middle of his face and then curves out same way the other horn did. And again down here, and make sure you come to a point, and usually the bottom is thicker than the top, like I did right there. Might be a little too thick. Maybe I'll erase a little bit. Okay. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now I'm going to work on the details. Well, before that, if you follow this line, there's a small sort of curving line right here that captures the rest of his face. And this line continues, there's sort of a band underneath his face right here that continues in sort of a, I don't know what you would call it, a curving, sort of reminds me of a wavy line that actually connects back here into this other circle that we made. And then because this is a band, you have to add another line underneath it. These sort of bands, I guess, just add a little more color to Heracross's design and separate the different areas. And now these two bands are connected, so erase the line enclosing the band under his arm so you can connect it. Now right here, this is kind of tricky because this band is going to be curving around his body, but we can't see that, so you have to curve it the same way that you curved the edge of his face so that it looks like it's going behind his face like that. Okay, now there are a lot of lines in here, as I've mentioned about 100 times. Like there's a sort of sad, almost looks like a sad face line right there for his mouth. And if you extend this line right here, there is another line that comes around like that, and a circle on the other side over here for his eye. And we don't see this eye because it's obscured by his horn. Oh, and I forgot, the second horn right here actually has a little hook on it like the other horn. So you can just add that in right there. I hope this is helpful to any of you. Okay, so now I'm going to get his other eye. And his other eye is partially covered by this orange sort of triangle shape. So extend a line from here, and the point is right here in the middle, sort of underneath the main point of his horn, and has a rounded top, and it just curves again like that. Kind of reminds me of a fan, like a Japanese fan. Now in this shape, there's a few cutaway pieces, like there's a cutaway triangle part right there. And there's a few other details, like in this illustration, there's a little line right there. And then there are also almost sort of like eyebrow things that come up right here that are on top of the orange thing. And so these are just sort of little rectangles, and they have a little point on the end right there, so it's sort of like a tiny triangle at the end. make sure that the lines here are curved and not too rigid, which I think mine might be. Make this a little more fluid. Okay. There we go. Now, there is another one of these that goes along over here, which I'm going to add right now. And this one has the same sort of thing, but you can just sort of draw it as a circle because it's partially obscured. And the illustration I'm looking at it is kind of, it's a little more circular than the other one. So now this other line, you have to picture this eyebrow it's sort of behind the second horn, and it comes out, so you have to imagine that the line continues and then pick it up as it comes out. I hope that makes sense. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. You know, I have a better eraser than the one on my pencil. I don't know why I haven't been using it. Okay, so here this one curves out slightly, and then this other one, and this actually tapers to almost to a point. And then at the very end of it, it widens into a circle at the end of his sort of, I've been calling them eyebrows, they're probably like antennas. Now this one is going to be partially obscured by his hand, which we will do a little bit later. It might be a little bit thick, but okay, we can adjust that a little bit later. Okay. So now for his eye is made up of a bunch of, I guess, ovals. So one oval right here, and the top part of it is obscured by the bottom part of this little orange hook right there. And then there's another line, the same thing that was over here, coming out from his mouth. So I'm going to extend his mouth a little bit more, okay. And then inside this circle is the actual eye itself. And again, the top part is still obscured by the orange triangle. It's not going to be orange in my illustration, but on the design it is. And then inside this is the actual pupil. And again, the very top part of that is covered, but this pupil doesn't go all the way to the bottom. There's a little gap, and make sure you leave a gap, it's hard to see on mine, surrounding sort of the iris and the pupil. There should be a little bit of a gap. I'm going to extend the iris a little bit more. And then the pupil, there's a highlight in the top of the pupil, and then the rest is black, so I can color that in right there. Okay, so let's see here. Now I'm going to add in the rest of his body so I can go in and draw the hand. So the rest of his body, it's another curving line right here. The rest of his body is sort of like a ball, and I'm going to get the rest of this in right here, if you can just see what I'm doing. Now, on this design, this sticks out a little bit from his body, so don't curve it around all the way. Leave a little bit of this right here, like unattached from his body. So I know that his legs do connect to his body, but I'm just going to complete the circle and then erase what I need to later. And that didn't come out so well. See, it's like it curves more this way than there, so it looks fatter right there. So here you can see a mistake being fixed in action. So let me try this again. I should probably make this one a little bit longer. Like, this isn't an exact circle. It's a lot longer than it is round, so I guess oval's a better word for it. See if I can get this right now. Okay, yes, this looks better. Okay. Okay, and again, this isn't the final line work, so I'm not too concerned with it. I'm still fixing this a little bit, just adding a different curve because the other one I had wasn't sort of correct. Now, the reason I drew this, oh, and I should probably mention that there is a little sort of divot right here, like this part of his body, like it goes in here, and that also goes in. Okay, so now drawing this other hand. Now, this circle on this side sort of repeated over there as a half semicircle, but it starts below this, I guess, midway, not midway line on Heracross, starts a little bit below, and then continues as kind of a half circle thing up here where it just disappears behind his nose. Now, the part of his arm right here is, think of like a cylinder. So I'm going to draw the two sort of sides, and then the curving part, sort of the curving base right there. The same thing we did on the claws over here, and I'm going to fix this and make this a little more curved. And then you can erase the line inside there. And next, I'm going to go ahead and draw the big hand, the big sort of circle. I keep saying circle, it's more of an oval. Big oval where his claws are going to be. And see, I'm trying to picture where this line is going to go as it continues through the horn and the antenna. And this actually kind of passes in front of the antenna, so I'm just going to go right over the antenna a little bit. And continue the line of the other side of the oval. And here we go. Just straighten up the edge of the circle a little bit. Now, before we start doing the details of the claws, I want to finish up with the same sort of, I guess, joint here on Heracross. There's another one right there, so I'm going to add that. And then, because of the shift in just the way his hand is, this circle right here surrounding the top is more visible. So make it further down, and here you can see more of the circle. So I'm adding the band right here. And then here come his claws, and the claws are in the same position here as the claws are in the same position here as they are here. But this time you can see more of them. So the first one, I'm going to put in the sort of curving line like a big C, and make it into one of those curved pointy triangle thing shapes. Then the second one is down here, and the same thing, and it points towards the center of his hand. And then the last one is actually intersecting with that one right there, so you can't see all of the base, and kind of goes straight out like that. So these are basically little curved triangles. They sort of remind me of candy corn, if you know what that candy is. That's sort of the shape that they have. Okay, so I'm making that one a little bit bigger. And then just like on over here, we have another sort of line, but the angle is slightly different. So it's curving more like that. I hope this is helpful to some people. I feel like I'm not giving very good instructions. Okay, so now we're on to the bottom part here. And I'm going to do this thing that I was telling you about. So to start, there are two curving lines that make up the edges of his frame, and these curving lines sort of follow the form that we drew earlier. So you have two on either side. Then right up here, about looks like maybe a quarter of the way down, we have a horizontal line, and then down here we have, let me fix this, another horizontal line. Now, so these lines just go straight across, and inside, this is where the weird sort of shelves come in. So going down, so I guess 3/4 or a quarter from this side right here, we have a little diagonal line, and it doesn't reach the edge. You have to stop and then go over in sort of a right angle, and you make this sort of almost like a trapezoid shape without the curve on the other side. Then underneath that, we have a second one, and this shape carries over, but the diagonal line is a little bit further down, so extend it, and then extend the diagonal line, and then make another straight line, and you get these sort of shelves in the middle of Heracross's body. Then we have just a straight line that goes down like that. I might have made the bottom segment here a little too small, so I'm going to bring this line up a little bit, and so then I will redraw that line, and that's the inside of his body. This looks a little odd to me, like this space looks a little too big, so I'm going to expand the middle, I don't know what you would call it, flap. I'm going to expand that a tiny bit just to make it look better. Okay. So now we have to draw his legs, and then we will basically be done with Heracross. Okay, so let's start with this leg right here. So there's a little orange band that you can't really see because it's obscured by his leg. So draw a little curve like this, and you will see why in a second, because then his leg comes out in sort of a really fat rounded triangle. I don't know why, it reminds me of like a torpedo, sort of like this. So as you can see, the orange band is in between his body and the leg, so you only get a little sliver like that as it comes around. And the top of his leg has sort of a fin shape on it. And this fin actually merges with the contour of his leg, like it doesn't go into the horn right there. So make sure that these two lines, that this line right here and that line right there, match up with the fin. And then you get a little line right here just to show the edge of the fin and where the fin meets the curving surface right here. So then underneath his leg, just like underneath his arms, we get another little circle, sort of a joint, and then a circle on the bottom here, but don't complete it because there is a huge claw and another like rounded triangle shape. So there we go right there. And now we just have one more leg to draw. So this one we're going to start with the curve of the sort of huge rounded triangle torpedo shape. And this one does not come to a point. In fact, this one over here looks a little too pointed to me, so I'm going to round this out a little bit. There you go. So just round this out like that. Going to erase the line right there, and we do have another one of those bands, so just follow along the contour of his leg where it meets his body and just add another little line some distance away. Now, before we draw the rest of the leg, there is this little shape back here, and it's just a curving line that extends back like that. That's probably like his wings or something, but in this view you can't really see it. And there is the other fin, and in this view of the leg it does cross in front of this line of the form of the leg, so you can put it in front. So draw the fin. Again, you erase the line, and erase the line back there, and draw another little sort of curving line to show the form where, because this part here is rounded but the fin sticks straight up, so there'll be, it's like where the two different forms meet. So then again we have another circle, another little joint right there, and we draw the same thing for the feet, a little circle right there. As you can see, this joint comes in on top of this circle right there, and the long claw, sort of an upside down wide C shape, and it extends out into kind of a rounded point, sort of a point. And there we have it, Mega Heracross. I'm going to fix this leg over here, just because it looked kind of lopsided to me. So fixing this, gonna adjust the angle right there. So I hope you guys found this helpful. I'm sorry I forget the name of the person who requested this. I will probably include your name in the description down below, or put an not annotation, like just a link or sort of a note on the screen to show the person's name, just to give you credit, because I was not planning on doing this. And please, if you guys have any more things you want to see a tutorial on, please ask. And I hope you found it useful, and I'm just going to go ahead and ink this and shade this, and that will be the end of the video. So next time I talk to you, it will be in a different video.
Everybody wants to be a master. Everybody wants to show their skills. Everybody wants to get there faster, make their way to the top of the hill. Each time you try, gonna get just a little bit better. Each step you climb, one more step up the ladder. It's a whole new world.